Sometimes when your life gets crazy, stressful, and totally overwhelming, the best thing you can do is to come back to the basics. Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Morgan with Morganlee Yoga, and today we are going to do a 15-minute yoga flow that is all about coming back to basics. This week, that is my affirmation that I chose, and I chose it for several reasons. Number one, because I really needed the reminder that the basics work, and we need to lay foundations in our life that keep us out of overwhelm, that help us combat stress and anxiety. And this has shown up several ways this week for me. For instance, I really narrowed down on focusing just the basics in my nutrition, and I feel 100 times % better than I did a few days ago. And I also tried an introduction yoga class, and I was skeptical at first because typically I try to challenge myself and do a more advanced or intermediate flow. But this yoga class was so basic. However, we were able to hold our poses longer and really get down into how these poses felt in our body and how they, like hand placement and foot placement and all the things. And I walked away from that class feeling so much more refreshed and ready to take on my day. And that inspired me to create a flow of my own for you about coming back to the basics. So as we work through today's flow, I really encourage you to reflect on how you can apply the principles you learn here on your yoga mat into your daily life. How can you simplify your nutrition, your hydration? How can you come back to basics in getting more sleep? How can you come back to basics for your mental health and your emotional health? It's really important for us to lay these foundations now so that when we get into situations of extreme overwhelm and stress, we have the foundations in place to make it through, but not only just make it through by the skin of our teeth, but come out the other side having grown stronger and more resilient, and to have the knowledge and feel the power within us that we can do hard things. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. We will walk to the top of our mat and start in mountain pose. What more basic pose is there in our yoga practice? But let's take a moment here and really break it down. So in your mountain pose, I encourage you to bring your feet about hip width apart. And then take a moment here and just rock forward and backward onto your tiptoes, onto your heels. Feel your weight shifting. And then settle your heels down, lift up your toes, center your gravity. And as you do that, tuck your hips forward, lengthen up through your spine, and then lower your hands down to your side palms facing forward. Once you are in this position, you can close your eyes. Inhale your shoulders up towards your ears. Exhale, roll them down and back. Let's take a moment here to focus on our inhales and exhales. Inhaling in through your nose and exhaling out through your nose. Inhale and exhale. The breath is the foundation of your yoga practice. It is what is going to help you find movement, find ease, and to find grace on your yoga mat. Your breath connects all of it together, your mind, your body, and your heart. So throughout today's practice, I invite you to come back to your breath over and over and over again, connecting it to each movement, really paying attention to how your breath fills you up with life and energy, paying attention to how your breath calms your mind, and how it lights up your heart. So take a few more deep breaths here, inhaling through your nose and exhaling through your nose, making this breath intentional and ease. On your next inhale, slowly lift your hands up to the sky. You can flutter your eyelids open, keeping your gaze lifted forward. Just feel your hands reach a little bit taller for the sky. Feel your spine lengthen and release. And then from here, slowly bring your hands down, hinging forward at the hips, coming all the way into a forward fold. Bring a nice big bend into your legs here as we begin, letting your head hang low. Arms come to the ground or to your blocks. And then from here, we're just gonna slowly start to straighten our legs just a little bit until you feel just a tiny bit of tension here through the backs of your hamstrings. Take one more breath in here. Slow exhale. On your next inhale, slide your hands up your legs to the tops of your thighs, tucking your elbows in next to your rib cage. We're gonna pause here and really break down this pose. I feel like this is an underrated pose. A lot of people just kind of skip through, but there is so much going on here, and it's a very big foundation for our basic yoga flow, for all yoga flows. So take a moment here, feel your back flatten and lengthen forward, and lower your gaze towards the earth. We don't want to be looking forward. We want a nice long line from our hips all the way to the top of the crown of our head. Tucking those elbows in, pause here, lengthening, inhale, and exhale, release everything back down to the earth. Inhale, straighten, lift your hands all the way up, reach for the sky, gaze forward, exhale, hands through heart center. Now let's speed that up just a little bit, connecting it all together with our breath here. Release your hands to your side, big inhale, reach up. Exhale, swan dive, forward fold. You can keep a slight bend here in your knees if you need to. Inhale, halfway lift, focusing all of those checkpoints, tucking your elbows in. Exhale, release down. Inhale, reach for the sky. Exhale, hands through heart center. Release your hands down, inhale your hands up. Forward fold on the exhale. Inhale, halfway. Exhale, release down. Inhale, reach up. Hands through heart center. Inhale, reach your hands down to come up. Forward fold, exhale. Inhale, halfway lift, lengthen through your spine. Exhale, down, pause here. From here, we're gonna step our right foot back and lower that knee immediately to the earth. Lighten up through your fingers. Don't put all of your weight through your fingertips here. Gaze forward. Of course, you can bring in some blocks under your hands here if that's more accessible for you. On your inhale, reach your hands all the way up to the sky and lengthen again through that spine. Your hips and the center of gravity should be pulling downward here, but we're also lifting up through our core and through our spine. Take a big breath in here. Exhale, come all the way back down. Curl your back toes under and step it up to the top of your mat. Forward fold. Take one half lift here, all the way up, and release down on your exhale. Plant your palms. This time, step your left foot straight back. Lower that back knee. Take a moment, light on our fingertips, gazing forward. Inhaling, reach your hands all the way up. Shift your center of gravity. Pull down through the center, but lift up through your side body and through your core, your spine. Big breath here. Exhale, release your hands down. This time we're gonna step our right foot back to meet our left, coming into our tabletop pose. So from here, let's just do a quick check through of all of our connection points. So your shoulders should be over your wrists, your hips should be over your knees. If this is uncomfortable for you under your knees, you can bring in a blanket, you can roll up your mat, and just find a little bit more padding there. Now let's take a couple of cat-cows. Let's do the traditional cat-cows here. So we're gonna drop our belly, lift our hips up high, inhale, your gaze comes towards the corner of the ceiling where the wall meets the ceiling. Pause here, notice how this feels in your lower back. Can you bring a little more intention here by pushing through your hands, your fingertips, pushing the mat away from you. One more breath in. On your exhale, slowly tuck your tailbone under. Engage your core, pull your navel in towards your spine as you round through your shoulders. Gaze comes back towards your thighs. Pause here. Feel the stretch in your back. Feel everything opening up through the back of your shoulders, your lower back. And now we'll connect this movement with our breath. Inhaling, drop your belly, gaze up. Exhaling, navel to spine, gaze backwards. Slow and intentional. Inhaling and exhaling. Moving back and forth here. Keeping the integrity engaged in your fingers. Pushing that mat away from you the whole time so we're not dropping down here in our shoulders, but everything is engaged and active. Notice how when we slow this down and really focus on each movement, how much more you get out of it, how much more your core has to work, how much more open your shoulders and back feel. Even your hands and fingers are strengthening here. Take one more inhale. Exhaling into that cat. From here, we're going to bring our toes together and our knees together and sink your hips back to your heels. Reaching your hands down back beside you, flipping your palms and releasing your head to the earth into our child's pose. Let's pause here for 3 deep breaths. Taking this moment to feel the connection to the earth, to center ourselves and find grounding. On your next inhale, bring your hands up in front of you and slowly walk them out towards the top of your mat, shifting forward into a half plank. Now you can keep your toes down towards the ground here, or you can go ahead and lift them up, your choice. But wherever you are, push the earth away from you, engage those fingertips again. We really want a Hasta Bandha grip, which is kind of like a cupping sensation here where all 5 of our fingers are gripping into that mat. In fact, let's take a moment and explore that. So shift your hips back for one more second, come into tabletop. And let's just explore what I mean by this grip from our fingers. So pretend like you're a cat and you're like kneading the mat. So you're gonna grip all 10 fingers into your mat and kind of pull them in towards center and up. And then release and do the other side. Pull them in and up. And just go back and forth here a few times, feeling the sensation of gripping into your mat, pulling everything inward. And this is that Hasta Bandha grip. And this is that foundational grip we want in a lot of these poses when our hands are on the earth. You're in tabletop, in plank, and in your downward dog. So once you've done, even out on both sides, come back towards center, walk your hands forward, engage those fingertips, and shift your weight forward into that half plank. So there's your fingers are sturdy. Release your shoulders, pushing that mat away, and then pull your navel in and even out your hips. So we don't want our hips stuck up here, and we don't want to be sunk down here. We want everything engaged. So take one more breath in. Exhale, lower all the way to your belly. Keeping our palms right next to our rib cage, tuck those elbows in. Inhale, tiny cobra. Exhale, release. Push all the way up this time, curling our toes under, lifting our hips up high into your downward dog. Activate those fingers again. Find that Hasta Bandha here. And keep your knees bent, especially if you have tight hamstrings. It's okay. Just bend your knees here, especially for our first one. Really engage through your hands. Push your mat away. Gaze towards your feet. Breathe. Now maybe you lower one heel and then switch. And just take a moment here, slowly lowering one heel and then the other, going back and forth. And then come back up to both tiptoes and slowly lower your heels towards the earth, going only as far as is comfortable for you. This should not be painful,
And if at any time you reach a point where there's excessive tension, pause, maybe back off just a millimeter or two, and that is where your downward dog will be. I know this can be tough for some people, so we're only going to be here for 2 more breaths. Stick with me. Inhale and exhale. 1 more. Inhale and exhale. Release your knees back to the mat. Go ahead and swing your legs around, coming into a seated position. We're going to just take a typical easy seat here, legs crossed, bringing our heels underneath our knees, sit up tall here. And let's do a couple of twists before we end today's practice. So bringing our left hand across and onto our right knee. Our right hand comes behind. Gentle, gentle twist here. Pushing through your right hand, but not like heavily, just gentle resistance, lengthening through that spine. Take a big breath in here. And on your exhale, maybe twist a little deeper. Pause. Come back through center to the other side. Cross your right hand over, left hand comes behind. Sit up nice and tall, big breath in. Exhale, twist a little more. So we're using that exhale to open up space for our body to twist deeper. And we're not being excessive here. We're listening, going only as gentle, that we don't need to be forced into these movements. And come back through center. Take a big breath in, reach for the sky. Exhale, hands through heart center. Thank you all for being here with me today. I'm so glad we were able to share this practice together and come back to a few of the basics here on our yoga mat, really paying attention to our foundations and building our flow from the ground up. It is so important for us to take these things that we learn here on our mat and apply them in our everyday lives. This is how you are going to conquer your overwhelm and work through those times of stress and anxiety. Build the foundations in your life first. If you want to learn more about building the foundations in your life, I wrote a blog post about it, and I will leave the link down below. And of course, if you want to work with me one-on-one so we can really narrow in on exactly what you need to do to bring your life into alignment, I would love to chat with you. I will leave a link down below for you to book your free session with me so we can see if we'd be a good fit to work together. So thank you for being here. Let's take 1 more breath together. Inhale, reach your hands up. Exhale, hands through heart center. We'll bow our head and say Namaste.